Agents Podcast.
You probably hear people like me standing on stages at real estate events around the country saying things like, you better start embracing influence and understanding how to own attention. Otherwise, people that do are going to come into our business and snatch up the business right from underneath you. And some of you probably roll your eyes when I say that, and others legitimately understand what I'm saying. And so that's why I'm putting an emphasis on interviewing those people that are going to come into the industry and snatch up said business. And that is why I'm bringing on Meghan King, who is, you might know her from Real Housewives, recently licensed in the business. And I'm going to pick her brain today from the real estate industry's perspective and ask her all the tough questions. Meghan, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. What an intro. The real estate business thief.
You know, I legitimately believe it. When you and I got introduced, ironically, we were both live in the same city, and I was excited because of the perspective of I legitimately talk about that. I say, unless your demographic, more my daughter's demographics, and my daughters, I've got two older daughters, 20 and 24. And one of them got their license. I said, you're going to kill it because you understand how to play this game. You're going to get in, you're going to vlog, you're going to speak to your generation. And sadly, that generation isn't going to care about your real estate expertise. They're going to care about how they can relate to you, how they can connect with you. And I think you have clearly, you understand this. You have a very big following on social. You understand social. So let's start here. Let's rewind the clock. I already teased who you are, where kind of your fame has come from, but let's rewind the clock. Like, tell us your story. What led you to that, and then where you then are today?
I mean, I think real estate was kind of like a natural progression for my career because well, first of all, I've always been interested in real estate. I've bought and sold and remodeled many homes. And I care about the process too, not just, like, oh, it's cute or something. I actually care about the transactions behind it and how they work and interest rates and like all of the little technical aspects that have to do with any transaction, but particularly real estate. I like the aesthetics portion of it. I think that's like a given, and I'm willing to admit that. But after having worked for myself for the last 10 years as a full-time influencer, I understand how to work for myself. I understand the grind, what it takes to self-motivate or not. And then also I spoiled myself with the flexibility that I was able to build while, working for myself. And so I can have all of those things with real estate. I am more beholden to the client, right? And so in social media as an influence, the client is like, it's more abstract and like easily you can either like push them off sometimes or reschedule campaigns. But that's the biggest difference with real estate is that like, I work for them, and it's not like, the brands work for me and when I'm an influencer. So that's the biggest shift, I think.
So tell us about what led you to Real Housewives. Let's rewind the clock.
Oh, the Real Housewives. Okay. Well, I just married my now ex-husband, but he's from California, Southern California. And so he had a place out there and was friends with a couple housewives on the show, just organically. And we were invited to a party that one of them was hosting and being filmed. And so I think that's where production might have seen me. And I got a call from casting. I went through the process and I was asked to be on the show. And
Awesome.
so I did.
And what the hell's that like?
Um, I think that like the thing that was most surprising to me was the amount of like setting up involved in it and like lighting and the lighting and the audio. I think people probably understand that more now though, because of, podcasts and Zoom and everything, that we understand, good lighting and good audio. But back then it wasn't really, a thing that we thought about it as much in our everyday lives. But generally it was pretty flattering, honestly, to see all of these cameras surrounding me. Like that's just like pumping up somebody's ego for no reason. There's nothing that I did to earn that, or like any sort of special skill I was displaying. And so like that ego boost it's like a drug because it's fake. It's smoke and mirrors, but like it feels really good. And then, but then the bad side of that is the feedback. So you're just everybody's, entertainment toy. Like, they feel like they own you or access to your life, and they're allowed to share their opinions or give unsolicited advice. And it's based, so like the character that you become, that you are, becomes a punching bag. And so that is such a blow to the ego that was just inflated by the cameras. The juxtaposition behind the intensity of the emotions is it's so severe and different, and like it's both ends of it are toxic.
Did the initial pumping of said ego, those cameras, did that change you?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it did, and my closest friends say it didn't. I didn't. I really had overnight fame. Like the show aired, and I felt like all of a sudden, I was getting recognized in supermarkets and airports and hotels mainly. But I did not like it. I felt like there was a spotlight on me wherever I went, and that overnight fame was really jarring for me, and like it made me feel depressed for a little bit before I kind of got used to it. And I'm not even, an A-list celebrity, so I can't imagine what that was feeling. And I always would say that, like, if this is how I feel, I can't imagine how like Kim Kardashian feels or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it changed me. No, I don't think I think that maybe, if anything, it made me distrust people's intentions or their motives, because I think, fame or influence is just like another way, another form of social currency, which could be like actual real currency, or, like any power, fame, beauty, success, like these are all social currencies. And so all of a sudden I was blessed with the like high social currency of fame. And then I started to like wonder about, what are people's motives? Are they trying to get close to me, like to get a piece of the pie, or do they actually like me?
Yeah, no, I get it. Now, if you don't mind me asking, you married a professional baseball player. I think a lot of people know this. I definitely know this, especially being a St. Louisan, because he was a St. Louis Cardinal. Now, prior to that, like what even led you to even meeting a professional athlete? What were you doing with your life prior to marrying him?
I was working in medical sales. I was selling pathology software to big hospital systems. I would spend most of my week in Dallas. I would fly to Dallas and mainly dot around the state of Texas, like the central, north part, and west Texas. And so then I met my ex, Jim Edmonds, who famous baseball player, like you said, excellent baseball player. And I just met him through mutual friends. Our friend groups overlapped. So it was really as basic as that.
Okay, interesting. So no fun, crazy stories of meeting in a club in some penthouse or just something. No, okay.
No, those are his girlfriends, his side pieces. That's where the side pieces come from.
Funny, not
Ha
funny.
ha, bada ching, bada ching.
I didn't expect that answer. That's good. Sorry for my reaction.
Mhm.
Okay, so you mentioned the side effect of the fame, which is a perfect segue into now what happens on social media. And one of the biggest fears people have with posting anything on social, what are people going to think? People are mean. You tasted that on a whole nother level. But
Mhm.
before I get to that, so now let's talk post show, post marriage. You went into what you described as influencing. And I don't think a lot of people necessarily understand what that really means. So can you describe it?
Yeah. So I call myself an influencer, which is like kind of, I feel weird saying that, because like I'm telling you that I'm influencing somebody, right? Like that's kind of a weird thing to say. But the way that like why I'm comfortable with saying that is because I've used this as a full-time job. So with my almost 1 million followers, I have an agent who only a digital agent, and she monetizes my engagement and my following by working with PR companies or marketing agencies or individual brands who come to her saying, I'm looking for the X, Y, and Z and someone to promote this product. And I like your client Megan, and I'm offer her this much for like this in exchange. And so with those deals, I've been able to sustain my life. I mean, that's my full-time income.
Mm.
So that's what I mean by influencer. And the brands that come to me, like Prime, for instance, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
They send me so much Prime. If you ever want any Prime, Jeff, hit me up. I got you.
You know what? It's funny. I actually use Logan Paul in my presentation when I talk about how Prime is affecting like Gatorade is threatened by Prime because of influence.
Yeah, because of him. I mean,
Yeah.
all these kids are obsessed with Prime. Like, I didn't even
Yeah.
know what it was, and all the boys on my street, they're like, you have Prime? Like, I'm the coolest, like, mom on the street among, like, the, 6 to 12-year-olds, boys. So, like, yeah, Prime will come to me, or I'm, like, looking around at stuff. I have all kinds of, like, swag in my
Like
office.
so apparel, like clothing, I would
Lots
assume
of
makeup,
actually
something.
less apparel, lots
Okay.
of beauty, lots
Yep.
of like hair, skincare, a ton of skincare. I think it has to mainly do with items that have a huge markup, because these companies are like really trying to push it while they can. So like
Yeah.
drinks, huge markup.
Yep.
Clothes, not as much of a huge markup.
Got it.
Harder to promote. Clothes are more like a trade. Somebody might give me stuff and hope that I'll post about it,
Yep.
but they can't usually afford influencers.
Yeah. So it's just fascinating to hear about this, because I do want to obviously tie it back to real estate, but I think it's important for legitimately a real estate agent to learn and understand this, because I don't think anybody looks at themselves as a quote unquote celebrity. And you mentioned you could get recognized in a grocery store. And it's another example that I use, that once you establish a digital celebrity and you start creating parasocial relationships with an audience, you become, even though you might have an audience of 200 on Instagram, but if you have a consistent presence and you're documenting your life, people will recognize you, assuming that's a geo strategy, like you have a geo audience. And some people say, oh, that's weird, that's creepy. And I say, no, that's you owning their mind share. And now you've got a raving fan that will buy whatever it is that you're selling. So I would love to hear your take on how I articulate that, is in terms of why that influence is so incredibly powerful.
So I'm going to speak on this like in regards to micro influencers, which are people who really diminish the importance of their following because they think it's not like in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And that I really want to stress that the micro influencer, the local influencer, is likely more influential than most any like person with a 100K plus followers.
I'm listening to you because I feel like I'm that person.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think you are, with the Lake of the Ozarks and your TikTok that you showed me, and I mean, like latched onto the Lake of the Ozarks, which is like so hot right now, and I'm sure like it was authentically what you're into,
Yeah.
but also like a little bit of luck, like with the show that's out right
Yeah.
now, and like a lot of work, and you're dedicated to it. I mean, it's all like and that's kind of how I feel like my following grew too. Like I knew something was there, but it wasn't really with Instagram, but I wasn't sure what it was, but I thought like, I'll just put some time and effort into this. And it was the right time at the right place, and I grew. But what I'm trying to do now is take my sphere of influence and really develop it within my town. And that's something I've never done or had to do. So last night, I went to a networking event, a female networking event with local influencers. And I was so excited to be invited to that. And the vibe that I got when I was invited was that they were happy to have me there.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went there last night and I met these incredible women, I'm like, no, 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 no. I want to meet you guys. You guys are the ones that have the influence over St. Louis. When I did the math, I have like 928,000 followers on Instagram. When I did the math, I have about 28,000 of those in St. Louis. So that would be my micro influence of 28,000 followers in St. Louis, which is really good.
Yeah,
Really
that's what I
good.
was thinking.
But like anybody else who has, like you said, 200 followers up to, let's say, like 30,000 followers, those people are all as influential, if not more, because my St. Louisans followed me when I was in California. They're not thinking of me as a St. Louis person. They're thinking like they can relate to me because I live in St. Louis and that's kind of a cool thing. But people still think of me as this Californian. And I was telling these women last night, I really want to hang out with them. I want to learn about who they connect with and what they do so they can teach me how to connect with St. Louis. And so people can think of me as a Missourian. And so like, that's the shift that I want. I want to be more like them.
I love that. I bet they were flattered.
Well, I think they were a little surprised because people diminish their worth. And also micro influencers put so much time and energy into their, social media. It's a passion project. And it's the content that they curate is gold. And I feel that like the dedication to it, where like I might do a post a few days late because I feel like I have to. But a lot of these smaller local influencers, like they have real good in the moment content that I follow because like I want to see what are the cool new things like for my kids to do or in and around St. Louis, or what's happening, or what is the house looks like in a certain area. I love that kind of stuff. And you're not gonna get that on my page. I want to start moving in that direction, but that's not where I would go. I'm more of like a traveler or something, but I want to nest.
So now you shift over to real estate. And actually, was that group that you went to last night, was it real estate influencers or
No,
was it just a mixed bag?
it was probably more like fashion, lifestyle influencers.
So that's just good networking in general, because now you can become potentially the real estate agent to that group of women.
Right. And
Brilliant. I love it.
yeah, exactly.
Smart. Okay, so now let's talk about the shift. You moved over to a big national global real estate brokerage,
Right.
which my initial inclination would make me believe, well, she's probably going to be getting deals, referrals from all over the world to all parts of the country. And you're just going to play this game of referring to an agent because you're probably not going to have a license in every state because that's not very efficient. And so tell us, like, what is your plan? Because I think from a high level, it's like, oh, she's just going to sit back and talk about real estate and some rich person's going to want to work with her or whatever. That's, you
Yeah.
set the record straight. What do you think? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
So the way that I see my real estate career going is twofold. I want to dedicate 50% of my business to my local market, St. Louis. I want to do the whole transaction from start to finish. Um, and I want to be involved in every part of the process. And that's where I am right now. I'm really developing that. The other side of the business that I want to develop is exactly what you said, the referral business. But I want to do it a little bit different. I'm calling myself a concierge real estate agent, where I'm trying to capitalize on the network that I've built on my international social media presence of 128,000 followers by saying basically it's a fancy referral, so they can have me as someone, their trusted advisor to recommend an agent that would fit with them in their area. And depending on what they're looking for or whatever, I might even fly out there, do a video of their home, but they will have access to my social media, and I'll be able to push out and promote their house on my social media, and then just like use me as a sounding board. So that's kind of what I'm trying to develop, in conjunction with what I've built, and to kind of set myself apart from other agents. And
So what would you,
hopefully that'll work, but
did you say 50-50? So you're 50% St. Louis, 50% concierge,
that's what I'm hoping.
Okay.
But right now I'm focusing only on St. Louis. I'm not focusing on building that concierge business, because what's most important to me is that I do right by my clients. And I don't think I can do that by just being like a smiling concierge agent. I want to actually discover the process and like do all the hard work. And I need to do that like by actually having real life experience in my local market in St. Louis. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm pushing right now.
I think that can be appreciated. And you have your first listing going live soon. So tell us,
Yeah.
how did you get that listing?
Um, I don't know this person at all. And
Nice.
they found me by they wanted a high-end agency to sell their home. They Googled Sotheby's, who I'm with in St. Louis, and they Googled, I think, Gladys Mannion, which is a local brokerage in St. Louis. And he decided to go with, and then he interviewed someone from that other brokerage, and then me. But he was interested in me because he saw my social media, but he didn't actually look at my social media. He just saw that I have a social media with a lot of people, and that's why he interviewed me. So, and this is this house is over $1 million home. And so for my first listing, I'm very excited, right?
Which by the way, in St. Louis is a high price point.
It's a high price point.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, I don't want to screw this up, and I want to really get this listing. So I decided to partner with one of our top producers at Sotheby's and bring him into my my listing appointment to try to get the job. I got the job. I'm going to put his name on it. And so now I can work directly with him and his assistant, which I'm doing. Say, like, what do I do with this? Who do I call? What's happening? So I can still say to my client, you are getting the best of the best.
Yeah.
I just happen to be learning throughout the
Yeah.
process, but you
Yeah.
still have access to all the things that make me, why you signed up with me.
I love that. I didn't know this, by the way. So if the audience thinks that I teed up that question intentionally, it wasn't to get the answer that I got from you, but it's the answer that I thought is going to have one of the most profound effects on influence as it relates to real estate, which is sellers. And this, I think, is only going to continue to grow because younger generations are going to become sellers. It's not just going to be boomers. And they are going to choose an agent based upon the agent that can get their listing the most eyeballs, or the agent who they see the most on social and they just liked them. And I know it might sound silly, but that, I believe, from a psychological perspective, is going to have a big impact on a buyer or seller's decision on who to work with as we progress into the future. And that's exactly what happened to you. So they did a little bit of homework. They found you. No shit, they found you, because I bet no other agent in either of those brokerages probably have jack squat for a social presence, if I had to guess.
And they don't talk about it if they do. That's
Yeah.
not on their bio.
That's awesome. And so from your mindset, when you got this opportunity,
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably jumped out of your chair and did a happy dance and was like, hell yes, let's go. Does that motivate you, or does that change kind of your perspective on how you're going to attack the industry going forward? Or was your head already in that place?
I was hoping that would happen, but I assumed that I would get business from people on social media who are already on there, already following me. But that's not what's happening. So I have 3 clients who have verbally agreed to work with me.
Buyers
And
or sellers?
they're 4 actually, 2 buyers and 2 sellers.
Wow.
And one was a referral through someone who I worked with through the Boys and Girls Club of St. Louis that I'm involved with. She referred me to this friend of hers. And then the other 3 just Googled me and found me on sent a question in, through the general contact me on Sotheby's website.
Really?
One, Jeff, I just wrote back, I emailed her and I was like, can you please give me an American phone number so that I know you're a real person? I'm like, well, this is crazy. And then she's real. And
Awesome.
yeah, so that I'm very surprised about. By the way, my very first listing, the one I was telling you about, it's going live in 10 days, next door to the house my dad grew up in. And again, I
Cool.
don't know any of these 4 people so that I'm very surprised by. So I don't think that there's much I can do to really change that, except say I have a lot of followers, and I don't know what I guess my presence or something, my picture, maybe I smiled the right way. I have no idea.
I mean, I think I know the answer. I mean, I do think that there is, there is a psychological thing inside of our brains where you see somebody on a screen, because we all grew up, most, at least our generation's 30 something and older, grew up watching television, right? We didn't grow up watching our cell phones, right? Or watching screens like we do today. That didn't come around until we were a little bit older.
Yeah.
And there's just this psychological thing where when you see somebody on a screen, they just carry a celebrity status. And
Yeah, I think you're right.
whether we like it or not, a lot of people are enamored with that,
Mm-hmm.
and they will want to do business with you because they see you on a screen. As silly as that sounds, I mean, I feel this on a micro level. I'll go interview people because I
Yeah,
do
for sure.
business highlights at the lake. And you know what they say to me?
What?
They're looking at me like, oh my God, I feel like I'm talking to a celebrity. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's the weirdest thing to me, because I'm like, I was not on a TV show, none of that stuff. I just put myself out on social a lot.
But and that's the thing with local real estate agents too. They're the ones who are successful high producers or not, if they're on their way. They're I see them around town. Me, who's actually been on TV and like has experienced a taste of real celebrity, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And I see these people and I'm like, ooh, or like a local, like news or something. I'm like, ooh, they're famous. And I don't think they realize that they're a presence because they're just so used to it in their everyday world and they carry
Yeah.
themselves in a certain way. And I'm like, but you're a celebrity, like show your face.
Yeah.
People need to see that. But
Bingo.
you know what I was thinking about when you were just saying that? Like how I got people and you're like, they see your face and on a screen and it carries a celebrity status. I think too, and you also touched on this being relatable. The four clients that I've gotten, two are gay men. One is a woman, single woman, who wants to purchase her first house and feels like she doesn't know who to look to. And one is a guy going through divorce. Like, guess what? I relate to gay men like nobody's business. I relate to women who are trying to make it on their own and go through like a process that is a little daunting and like come out on the other side of it. And I relate to people who have been through a divorce and people know these things about me. And so I think that there might be something there, Jeff.
I don't think there's any question that that has got a lot to do with it. So you do have your primary platform is Instagram. You've mentioned that. Are you going to, or do you already intentionally have broadened out to other platforms? Or are you just
Um,
solely focusing on Instagram?
I mean, I cross promote to Facebook, which I think is huge in the Missouri market,
Mm.
but also just every market's our Facebook skews a little bit higher in age. And
It's the retirement home of social media apps, is how I
it
describe
is. I
it.
mean, retirees love to buy houses. So
There's more money on Facebook. That's what it is, actually.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, definitely cross promote those. But what I'm trying to do too is like boots on the ground locally, and that's what I'm trying to like even narrow it down to more local. Like I've reached out to a bunch of local statewide chambers of commerce with like who have like a gross domestic profit of over $5 billion a year. So I've like narrowed it all down and like calling each chamber, like, let me come and talk to your people. You know what I mean? Like
Cool.
whatever I can do to make myself feel more local and like get my face in front of people. So I'm like, because I'm trying to be like, look, I'm just like you. I'm relatable. I'm not a celebrity. Like, call me. Here's my personal cell phone number. And I'm not getting it. So I'm still trying to work on that.
It's interesting. That's good though. I mean, I love where your head's at, because that every time you could stand in front of one of those audiences will very likely turn into a potential long-term, if not short-term client,
I
because
hope
someone's going
so.
to sit there. They're going to look at you. She's on stage. Now I'm stalking her. Holy shit. If we ever sell our house, like they're going home to their spouse and say, if we ever sell a house, we're hiring this gal. Um, and it's not even going to be about real estate. It's going to be about, it's about the celebrity. It's about the influence. So you have two Instagram pages. One has the 928,000 followers.
Mhm.
One is just real estate, which is just barely getting started.
Yeah.
You mentioned the four clients. Do you think all
Mhm.
of those four clients went straight to your personal page. That's the connection. Cause you're a vlogger is why I would describe you. You document life. You share what's going on in your world. That's how I knew you were just at an island. You show up on my
Right.
feed. I see that. Do you think that's where the power is there versus the business page?
I do. I do. Um, yes, 100%. Now, like, I think a lot of times, especially myself as being on the other end, a buyer and a seller of real estate many times over, in my head, like, I'm a very thorough individual and I do a ton of research on anything and everything. I'm curious. And I just think like nobody's as curious as me. And so like, why do I need a real estate agent? Like I have Zillow. Why do I need a real estate agent? So, but you do. Well, this is what I'm thinking, right? Like now I have a different thought process. This is like the old me, my way of thinking. And I'm thinking, well, I got to go see the house. Like I got to like whatever. Like I need basically a real estate agent as an accessory. That's how I'm thinking. Well, so who do I hire? I hire someone I want to hang out with. I hire someone I can shoot the shit with and like who also I think is smart and like knows what they're doing. But in my head, you know, in these past years, I'm thinking, anybody can do it. I just had like somebody cool. And now I know that that's absolutely not the case. Not just anybody can do it. And you really want someone seasoned in the business, which is why I'm willing to give up 25% of my very first listing to a very seasoned, you know, buyer and or seller's agent in my brokerage because I want to learn and I want to give that to my client. But anyways, yes. So the long-winded answer is yes, I think it's the lifestyle portion that really attracts the clients to the agent.
I'm glad you said that. Because the first time I interviewed you, I almost felt like maybe you didn't mean it this way, but it almost felt like you were trying to separate the state and church, so to speak, right? You were trying to separate the two, but I don't think you should.
I'm a little bit trying to separate the two. My agent, my digital agent is like, they're always like, whoa, what are you doing? Changing your lifestyle that you've built this on, you know? And so my digital agent really wants me to develop my real
Real
estate.
estate brand.
And then like, obviously my brokerage is like, wants my whole entire big page to only be real estate, right? So oh, but so my real estate page, I have like 8,000 followers or something. But really, it was from I had I did IVF and it was my documentation of my IVF journey. And so I just archived every one of those photos and I changed the Instagram handle and I kept my 8,000 followers and now it's like now you get real estate. So I got to train these people and make sure they're authentic, but really it's almost like it's not bot followers, but I mean they're interested in IVF, so hopefully they're still interested in real estate. But what I'm doing is I'm cross promoting. So I'll use my real estate page. I'll you know do some posts on it and tag my big page, and then I'll go to my big page and repost. So it's the best of both worlds.
So is that the Meghan King Realty?
Yeah.
So it was probably called something different. And then I also assume just looking at the page, you deleted everything that was.
It's all archived. Ooh, never delete a post, always archive. Deleting a post tells the algorithm that you don't respect your content enough to keep it up, and the algorithm will push you away.
Interesting.
Always archive.
Good to know. I never delete anything, so I don't have that problem. But now that if I ever need to know that.
But sometimes people get embarrassed that they don't have like enough likes or something and they'll think it's not performing. So they should delete because it's going to dilute their insights. Just archive.
Nice. Good tactical advice. I like that. So now as you talk about the two accounts, looking at your personal account, there really isn't a whole hell of a lot real estate yet and may never be because you still have that business. And the reality is, I think people are going to go stalk you and not care so much about how many homes you've sold or how many just listed, just sold, open house posts you have. What they want to do is go down the rabbit hole of who Meghan is.
I think so. And also that's a little scary too. Like honestly, I'm trying to show up on my social media, like less bedhead and more like the polished like version of myself, which is still authentically me. But I'm like, all right, we're moving on from like the hard mommy toddler days version of me, and we're turning into the like kids have gone to school and mommy's going to work and like take me seriously because I do have a brain in here. I have been using it to raise little like ankle biters, but now I'm using it back to do technical things that, in marketing and be creative. So pay attention.
I like it. And so as far as going forward, one question that I had was, and I get this question a lot, is how private should I be? Should I include my kids? I don't want to put my kids out on social media. I get that question all the time. And I noticed you are a face blocker. And I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, why? From I think I know why, but I want to hear it from your mouth. Like, why do you do that? Because I don't.
It's twofold. So the one, and you're a man, it's a little different, and I'll tell you why. It's twofold. The first part is because I felt like my children's faces were being used they were being exploited by the other party. To anyways, I felt like they were being exploited. So I
There's
didn't,
more. In other words, there's more to it than just the social. There's also because your
it's like,
ex is also famous.
yeah, it's like
Got it.
yeah, he has a lot of followers too. And so that was one part, but the other part is, and this is what it is, that yes, of course, they're little kids and I built my brand on being a mom to them and yada yada, but also what do little kids do? They grow up and they can't just be this like extension of me all the time, because then where's my identity and where's like my self-worth, because kids grow up and move on. And so if I don't train, and also like people don't want to watch, pre-teens. They're not cute and funny and silly. They're like annoying and they're not even cute to look at, right? Like they're not aesthetically pleasing. Like we want to look at like babies doing cute, silly stuff. And so when you show that and that's your only focus, and then you move out of that, you're going to move out of engagement on the way.
Mm.
And so that's why I started like to try to make that shift, and then like the face blocking to protect them and their anonymity, because again, with so many followers, they don't know what, they're being exposed to or anything. They just know that this is what mommy does. And every single child wants to be a YouTuber or
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or an influencer, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't know what that means. So the last thing I want to do is for them to grow up in the shadows of a pro athlete dad and an influencer mom, like basically two fairy tale jobs,
Yeah.
and for them to think that this is like what they should aspire to.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe not, but like that's not a truly realistic goal for most people. Um, so but I think also the male and female component is something that we have to talk about as far as showing kids. The general public is never worried that necessarily that a dad is going to compromise his career because of the child's needs. Like whatever the child has going on, it's like still is culturally assumed that the woman will handle that, whoever that woman may be.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you can show your kids and then they're not going to be, nobody's going to take that as a threat to your career. A woman who's trying to be taken as a serious businesswoman, she needs to make sure that that balance is shown so that people take her seriously and don't think that she's going to skip, a showing for her client because she has a field trip at her kid's school.
Mm. I never thought about that. That's interesting. Yeah. So, because like when I share my 5-year-old Winter, it's like, oh my God, you're such a good dad. So cute. Like it almost lifts me up.
Yep.
I see your point. I had an employee once who she was a loan officer and didn't want to tell her agents that she was pregnant. And
I
I was
wouldn't
like,
either.
what a effed up world we live in that you have to be afraid of that. That's bullshit,
Yeah,
But yeah.
it's true though. It's how the world goes. And so, like the minimum expectation for a mom is that she'll be at everything, involved in everything for her kid at every step of the way.
Yeah.
If a dad does one
Mm.
piece of that, he's exalted as an excellent father.
Superhero. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause there's so many deadbeat dads. You just be a good dad and
Yeah.
you're praised. Yeah. I've felt that. I know that.
Yeah.
All right. So then what's your advice? Because you're coming from a different place. And so just speaking to people like me, but maybe the female agent on the other side who has no influence whatsoever, and has tiptoeing the line. Like, I don't know if I should share my kids or not. What would be your advice to them?
I say share them, like share the lifestyle that's a part. It makes you relatable, and also it makes you vulnerable because you never know what kids are going to do or say or act. And so if you're one is able to put that on the internet, I think that shows that they're able to be like vulnerable, and you can just like hang out with them. They're not worried about being perfect all the time. And that feels good when you're making such an emotional decision in real estate.
I love that. Last question. So somebody's listening, somebody's watching, you gain some followers as a result of this because people are just going to go down the rabbit hole. And there's going to be some real estate agents that just love you. And they're going to look at that. There's going to be some that hate you and they're like, get out, stay out of my business. And there's going
Totally.
to be others that are like, oh my God, this is so great. I love her. Oh, I remember seeing her on the show. This is so awesome. What's your advice to anybody who's listening to this today, whether they're on the good side or the bad side of the fence, thinking to themselves, all right, shit, I just keep hearing about this, like this whole influence game. I really need to incorporate social media into my business and I have no idea how to do so. What's your advice?
I mean, sign up first. Sign up for
Well,
Instagram.
let's assume they have a Facebook. Everybody
Okay,
has
so
a
they're
Facebook.
so they're on Facebook. Okay. Um, what would be my advice? I don't know. Post videos, a lot of videos,
Of
but like
what? Of what?
everyday stuff. Like, I don't know, like, good morning. I got my prime this morning. Gonna hit the road. It's gonna be a great day. Anything.
Yeah.
Like,
It,
I mean, don't you
in
think?
other words, like be
Get out there.
more the backstage pass to people's lives because that's what people want on social.
And also self-deprecation is it goes a long, long way.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I mean, because that's the ultimate relatability. I saw an influencer at my kid's school the other day, a local influencer. She has like 100,000 followers or something, and she lives in my town, Kirkwood, in St. Louis. And I'm like driving my kid's school, and I see her, and I roll down my window. I was like, "Hey, I'm a big fan. I really like following you. Your stuff is great." And she's like, "Oh, thanks." And I'm like, "Oh my God, who am I? What did I just do?" But like, I felt that close to her that I could like yell at her, like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yet you've got like 10x her followers. Like
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah. They're all just people, right? It doesn't matter.
Well, but that also humanizes you right there, which I think is important, you
But she
know,
doesn't
because
know who I am. She has no idea who I am.
no, but I mean, just from our perspective,
Oh,
from
I
this
see.
audience, like just hearing you say that, it's funny to hear you say that because you're still a human. You know,
Yeah.
it's just because you have more followers than somebody doesn't mean you bleed a different color than everybody else. And you go through the same challenges. And I think that's the bigger point to what you said. Like that is what makes you relatable. And people don't want real estate when they open up social media. They'd rather see what you're eating for breakfast than to see
Yeah,
that you have a new listing. It sounds
totally.
silly, but it's reality.
Yeah. And that you're like dynamic, like, and you're not just, one thing all the time. If you're real estate all the time, you're boring. Nobody
Yeah.
wants
Yeah.
boring.
You're buried in the algorithm anyway because nobody's engaging. That's what people don't
Right.
understand about social. Is like, well, if I post, I have 2,000 friends, all 2,000 will see it. Wrong, like maybe 10. Like it's that bad, you know? And it's I'd love to have that conversation with you sometime. Get more deep into the metrics and the analytics
Yeah.
and the science behind social. But honestly, I think it's important that people, you know, first of all, welcome to the industry.
Thank you.
I think it's really exciting to have people like you here because I love it. This is my passion. This is what I do. So I'm excited to see it. I don't think a lot of our industry probably necessarily is, but whether
No,
you
I
like it or
feel that.
not, it's coming. The reality is it's not Meghan King's. It's a 22-year-old. It's a 22-year-old who understands how to do this stuff and has the editing skills and has the camera skills. And they're just going to be real. They're going to do what they've done since they were 13 years old. And they're going to come into the industry. They're going to apply it. And Meghan, the way I best describe it is there's a boom coming. You've got
Mhm.
an entire generation
Yeah.
of baby boomers that have stayed in place that are about ready to sell their homes in the next 5 to 6 years. And guess who's going to buy almost every one of them? Young millennials and Gen Z. How do those people find anything that they buy?
Internet, social media.
Bingo. Yeah. So
Bingo.
it's like you either embrace this shit or go ahead and take a step out to retirement because the business will pass you by. So Meghan, I'm excited. I'm excited to
Yeah.
see your journey here. Thank you for joining us. What is the best way?
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to connect with you, and I guarantee somebody will.
Yeah.
I think I know
Reach
the
out.
answer, but can you give us
Yeah.
the best ways to connect with you?
Yeah. Social media, Megan King. You'll find me. That's all
And
you got to
it's
do.
Meghan. So if you
Yeah.
type in Megan, you may not find her.
May not.
So
You may. Sometimes it'll come up.
I typed it in this morning and you didn't come up. And then it dawned on me, oh, she's got an H in her name. Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
So awesome. Thank you so much for joining
Thanks for
us.
having me.
This has been a blast. We're definitely going to do it again because I want to dig
Cool.
into the analytics and the important stuff because I think you understand it as well as anybody. And
I want to go to the Lake of the Ozarks with you. I want you to show me around
hey,
there.
anytime.
Okay, cool.
All right. Take care. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having me.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Lab Coat Agents Podcast.